Welcome to the Purpose Podcast, where I'm your host, Dr. Jazz, and we journey to purpose together. Today with me, I have Ayrielle Williams, and she is a licensed psychotherapist in Virginia. She is the owner of Next Chapter Therapy and Consultation, a private therapy practice that serves individuals and groups with issues connected to sexuality and sexual dysfunctions, as well as trauma and trauma-related disorders. She is the owner of The Straightforward Therapist, a business that specializes in products and services geared towards educating and supporting individuals in their journey to emotional and sexual wholeness. How are you doing today?
I am doing good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for
This is
being
exciting.
here. To give y'all a little background, we met at Xavier University, the Xavier University, XU all day.
Yeah.
Yes, we were both psychology majors, and she continued on, whereas I diverted paths, and that's okay. A part of
That is okay. There's nothing
is
wrong with that.
changing paths and making it work. So yeah, I think you're probably one of the few people I know that graduated psychology that are like therapists. Actually,
Really?
I'm trying to think who graduated with us that are like therapists. Nick,
Only very few. Nick, Joy.
Joy. See, we
Yeah,
are
very
struggling.
few.
We are struggling to find out. So people found their own path, and that is a-okay. That's totally fine. I still use my psychology background. I'll be diagnosing people left and right. But
You have to. You have to.
I'll be like, yeah, that's a
I feel
touch
like
of
paid all that money for it.
that's a touch of that. And then I just move on. But anyway, as you know, well, you may not know, but one of the things I do is I just jump right in. So my first question is, what does purpose mean to you?
Okay, so purpose to me means meaning. I think purpose equals meaning,
Hmm.
where, you know, you're finding a positive sense of direction in your life. It guides your path and your goals. Um, I think knowing your purpose means actually having to do the work to find it. So knowing what your values are, knowing your why, exploring why those values are your values, because we don't just wake up in the morning knowing our purpose. We don't wake up in the morning knowing what our values are. Those are things that we have to work really hard to figure out. And we're not taught, at least our millennial generation was not taught as children, oh, honey, how do you find your purpose? Like, that's not a thing.
It's not a thing.
And so it does make it a little bit more challenging as you become an adult to figure out, well, what are my values? Why do I value free time and financial freedom or uh, alone time, whatever the value may be, right? So, yeah, I think purpose equals meaning.
So I want to ask, so you're on as yourself, but you're also on as a therapist. So I want to ask
Yes.
you, like, for yourself and then as a therapist, how did you find out, like, walk me through the process of my value is financial freedom, but here's why. Like, how do I get to my why
Mm,
for the value? Because
that
that's
is a
interesting.
good
I've never
question.
thought about that.
Okay. So, what's a good example? One of my main values, one of my top values, of course, God, family, friends, right?
Right.
But autonomy is a really big value of mine. And that's why working a 9 to 5 wasn't helpful for me. I felt closed in. I felt like I didn't have much ability to just be, right?
Mhm.
So when you're really looking at the why of what your value is, and I say, so before I couldn't say autonomy. I was saying, like, I just want to be free. I don't want to listen to
Mhm.
authority and what people have to say. And so once I was able to put a word on it and say, well, I truly value autonomy, especially creative autonomy. And then when you ask yourself why, you're really going to think about, how does it feel for me to be autonomous? What does that look like in my life? And can I remember a time in my life where I truly felt that? or where I truly did have autonomy, and what were the emotions that came up, and just really being able to pinpoint what those emotions were and why those emotions are so important to you is really fundamental. So, like, me thinking about when I realized autonomy was one of my biggest values, I also remembered when I was in high school. So, I have a brother who's 5 years older than me, and I went to high school like 40 minutes away from my house. My parents got me a car, I had a cell phone. My brother was in college, so he wasn't bothering me. My parents were hardworking people, so I had a lot of autonomy. I was
Mm-hmm.
doing what I wanted to do, probably not making a lot of great decisions, but I was happy. And so when I think back to it, like the emotions that came up were like, I felt free. I trusted myself. I felt strong. I felt empowered. I felt smart because I was making all of these different decisions as a high school person on my own. And then moving into the working world, working, especially in psychology, starting out, you're going to have jobs where you don't have much autonomy, whether you're working in a hospital setting or private practice setting, or you're always going to be working under someone else at first. And you're working under someone else's license. So you have no autonomy. You have to do
Yeah.
what they say. Um, Anyways, my point is, once I realized that, then I'm able to recognize why it's so important to me because I want to I want to feel like I have ownership over my life and my decisions. And when you're working under someone else's license, it's really hard to feel like you have ownership because you're doing what they're telling you to do. So to answer your question, when you're thinking about your value and really thinking about the why, I always tell people to start with the emotion. What is the actual emotion that comes up as you're thinking about this value? And then asking yourself, what is it so important? Why is it so important to me that I'm viewing this value with these emotions? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So
Um,
can the emotional push be negative? Because I'm thinking about all my friends have said, like, I have a friend, I don't know, I'm started already now, who basically was like, yeah, I made this decision based out of anger, right? Like, and now they are, living with I don't want to say consequences, just I guess consequence is not a bad word. The consequence of their action,
mhm,
not in a negative way, just
mhm,
like, because I made this decision out of anger, here are the things that have happened. So when it comes to your purpose and finding meaning, like your meaning and your values that are under that, can, like, well, my mom never gave me autonomy. So I refuse to ever, but
yeah,
is that, I guess my question is, can that be as effective and does it last as long?
yeah, definitely, definitely, because it's those negative moments and those negative emotions that help you to realize what you really want. Like, how often do you hear people say, "Oh, I'm never gonna raise my kids the way
Yeah.
that my parents raised me," or "My parents used to do X, Y, Z. I'm not doing X, Y, Z with my kids." And
Hmm.
so it's not us saying that, yeah, my parent was horrible and they suck. It was just like that didn't work for me. So what does work for me is not XYZ, but ABC. And that's where I'm gonna put my focus. And it definitely lasts. It's definitely um negative emotions and experiences as well as positive, definitely motivators, right? And so when you think about motivation and you think about what is going to help me to reach my goal, having that, when that motivation is lacking and then all you have is self-discipline, is the problem because a lot of people don't have the self-discipline,
Yeah.
right? So thinking about the emotions can really to motivate you to do what it is, whatever it is that your goal is. But even before you can get to that point, you have to figure out, why is that emotion such an issue, right? Just
Yeah.
like as a quick example, cleanliness is a really big thing for me. Um, and so my dad, my dad, when I was younger, he was pretty hostile and aggressive when it came to cleanliness. If something wasn't clean in the way that he wanted it to be clean, he was he was pretty aggressive about it. Like, you're
Hmm.
gonna clean this. He would wake us up in the middle of the night and make us clean up something, or we would have to just keep cleaning it. My brother and I have to keep cleaning it until it's up to his standards. So what my dad never realized is that I walked away from his reaction feeling worthy. If I didn't create a clean space, I was no longer safe in my house, and my dad no longer liked me. I
Mm-hmm.
am not worthy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that translated into adulthood where now my house stays clean all the time. Um, Once I recognized why, that I was keeping a clean house literally to feel worthy, it was helpful to recognize that because then I took control over it. Because then I was able to think about, okay, well, how do I really feel living in a clean house? Do I actually like it?
Yeah.
Yes, I love it. It brings me so much peace, so much joy. So even though when my house is not clean, I am not unworthy, I'm not unlovable. But when my house is clean, I feel really good, right?
Yeah.
So now I can separate cleanliness from my self worth, but also recognizing that it still makes me feel good. My dad, even though his methods were not the best for me, it helped me to realize that this is something that I actually enjoy.
Okay,
You know
cool.
what I
That
mean?
makes sense.
So I
Yeah,
was able
that
to
makes sense.
define it for myself.
That makes sense. So making meaning for yourself, it of course like cleaning your house is not your purpose, but like
Hmm.
making meaning for yourself based off these experiences. Um, and also I just never thought about I have, but I've never I don't know, I just never thought about why my values are my values. I mean, I guess I have,
Mm.
but not really. Like I just want to be,
Yeah, yeah,
like I just want to be financially free so I can do whatever I want. That's not like a real to me, the way you're explaining it, that's not like a
real
real,
meaning.
yeah, like a real meaning.
Yeah.
Like why do I want to
So
be able
then
to
the
do what I
better
want?
question would be like, well, why is it important to me to have a life where I can do what I want?
Yeah.
You know, what happens if I'm not able to do what I want? What kind of person does that make me? How does that make me feel?
Yeah, that makes sense. So I'm not, that
Yeah.
makes sense. So I think even translating that to our purpose, like saying, okay, the purpose, using your definition, is meaning, right? It is kind of why I'm here on earth. I believe that's what you said. So
Yeah.
why? Because I think in order to pursue it, because that's one of the things you said too, like you have to work at it. So in order to work at something, you have to know why. Like I actually did a video about it a
Exactly.
whole long time ago. Like, why do I want to pursue um this purpose? And I think knowing that second question you asked, like the
Yeah.
why behind the value helps you do that. And
Yeah.
that's very helpful. You already
You're
helping the
welcome.
people. Because I never like I'm for real. Like I'm sitting here like, man, why do I want to do these things? Like I know what I want to do.
Mhm.
And that may be
Mhm.
why it's hard for me to, pursue them every day.
Yeah.
Because I don't
Yeah.
have the why behind it. I do know though, like when moments come. So just speaking of well, not really financial freedom, but just speaking of having free time, and a flexible
Mhm.
schedule. Like one of my close friends, he had two deaths in his family back to back, and I like was able to just go home, and like just be there for a week and still do my work. And I was like, man, like, and I remember saying like the fact that I can just buy this plane ticket and get on the airplane like 2 days later and be, like I'm thankful for that. So, but
Yeah.
I don't still don't know the why. Like, is that my why? To be able to jump on a plane when I want? Like I don't know. Trying to figure
It
it
could
out.
be your why could be, um, being there for mm,
I guess it would be able to be there for my family when if there is a crisis. I could say that.
yeah, and for yourself, because if you decide, you know what, I've been really stressing down lately. I want to go to Puerto Rico this weekend. And to be able to like just hop on Google Flights and boop, 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 buy this flight to Puerto Rico, whatever. That's important too. You and realizing that wow, this financial freedom not only affords me to be able to see my family and friends when I need to, but I can do it, the things that I actually want to do. I can
Mhm.
do the things that bring me joy when I want to do them. I don't have to say, oh, let me wait till this next paycheck. Uh, I gotta wait till June. I gotta wait till December. No, I do this now because I'm doing all of the work that I need to do to be financially free. Um, so sometimes there's the why isn't that deep. Sometimes it is,
Yeah.
sometimes it's not. you know.
I think that's important too because I overthink things. So listen, y'all, your
I do
why don't
too.
have to be deep.
I'm an overthinker for sure.
Yeah, like
And
I would be like, cause I
learning
will go home. When I go home, I'm at home now. But I would be in my bed like, man, why do I want to do this? Why do I want to do so yeah, that makes sense.
overthinking. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely
Yeah.
overthink. So my next
hmm
question is, how did you get to your purpose? Tell us your journey.
That's a good question. So I always knew that I wanted to be a therapist of some sort. I went to college thinking I wanted to be a psychiatrist. Technically as a therapist, but I guess some of them are. I don't know. Anyways, I went to college wanting to be a psychiatrist and then took my first biology class and realized that's not for me. And so it wasn't until we were graduating and kind of looking at, okay, what are the next steps? Where I was applying to schools for psychology program, different psychology programs, social work programs, counseling programs, and it just so happened that the social work program, I only applied to one social work program at LSU, and it just so happened that they were the only program to give me a full ride. And it didn't help that it also helped that Baton Rouge is still near a lot of my family, you know. So I was like, oh, LSU sounds perfect, right?
Yeah.
Not knowing what social work was or what they did. I just knew that you're a social worker and then be a therapist. I didn't know the whole realm of it, right? And so going through school, I've had some different traumas that I've had throughout my life. And so one of the classes you have to take in the School of Social Work is this trauma course. And so that's where I was able to define a lot of my trauma and define how it truly impacted me. And that's when I decided I wanted to be a trauma therapist, right? So fast forward to 2020, I had my private practice, COVID hit, and I had been seeing pre-COVID 35, 30 clients a week of just trauma clients.
Mm.
And when COVID hit, a lot of my clients decided, you know what, I don't want to do telehealth, so we're just going to wait till this thing passes because a lot of people thought it was just going to be this quick thing,
Yeah.
right? We all did, I think. Um, that COVID was what really helped me
Mm.
to pin that I don't want to be a trauma therapist.
Okay.
Yeah, right. So I enrolled in a sex therapy certification program, which I'm still currently in. Um, and that is when I truly realized this is what I'm supposed to be doing,
Mm-hmm.
sex therapy, you know. Um, so a part of being in this program, you have to also have sex therapy clients so that you're learning along the way. And I love all of my clients, but when I see my sex therapy clients, I wake up feeling excited about my day,
Yeah.
you know? And when you think about purpose, that's the whole point. When you're looking for purpose and you're finding meaning in your life, it's finding something that excites you and brings you excitement, you know? What can you do with your life that will help you wake up and feel excited about your day, not dreadful?
Yeah. So
And it's sex therapy.
did you have, I'm sorry, did you have one
Go ahead.
sex therapy client that was like, that you were like, whoa, this is what it is? Or like during COVID, you were just like, there's this type of therapy and there's this type of therapy.
So, not one client. I think because so I was doing the certification, but I didn't start accepting my first sex therapy clients until December.
Okay.
And so, because I started the program in last June, last July, 2020 July. And so I started accepting clients in December once I got some education and training under my belt. This is a year-long program. Um, it wasn't until maybe February, March where I was consistently seeing people, sex therapy clients, because at first I was scared. I was super nervous because I'm like, this is new. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not competent. And so it's good that I have a really helpful supervisor that's like, you got this. You know what you're doing.
Yeah.
It wasn't until about February, March where I realized, oh, I actually love talking about sex. Like, this is not that scary at all. Like, I love educating people about sexual beliefs, negative sexual beliefs and myths, and like you don't have to live your life according to the way the TV says you should. You can
Yeah.
do what you want to do. Do what brings you joy. How do you want to define your sex life? So yes, it wasn't one specific client. It was kind of just me realizing that I like I like talking about this.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I always tell people is pay attention to how your body feels physically, right? And so when I'm talking to sex therapy clients, I'm paying attention to I feel really comfortable. I feel happy. Like I feel the blood flowing. This is fun, versus like a trauma client. I like the client, but it's like saying things and I'm feeling triggered.
Yeah.
I'm feeling my body physically react, and that's not fun.
That is so interesting that you say that because this is actually Stress Month at Prosper Projects, my other business. And that's one of the reasons
Mhm.
I brought you on is I told you that like we're switching the podcast to match what we talk about at Prosper Projects. And I
Oh,
think that's
cool.
interesting that you say that because I really do feel like even when it comes to my purpose and my like I literally can feel it in my body like the
Yes.
days where like I'm gonna record a podcast, like I'm really excited. I'm like, yes, I get to talk to
Mhm.
people, and then
Yes.
like the next day when I have to edit said podcast, I'm not as excited. But I do understand like the difference
Mm.
in like our body. And I think even when it comes to our purpose, I think that's something people should like pay attention to is a stress in their body. Like you're saying this is your purpose, but you're tense when you talk about it, or you're
Yeah.
not, you
Yeah.
don't smile or you're not happy
You
about
don't
it.
smile. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that those
That's
things
so
matter.
true.
I'm sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, those things do matter. And a lot of people don't know, oh, my physical body is giving me insight into how I'm thinking and how I'm feeling because your brain is going to send signals to your physical body first before you even label what the actual emotion is or what the actual
That's
thought is.
crazy.
Yeah.
I forgot
And
about
so if
that
you're
part of my training. My limited psychology degree.
it's
That's so like your
okay.
body know, like your body saying I'm stressed before you can even say
Exactly.
this trauma patient
Like,
client.
can you imagine a moment where you got irritated about something and your body just felt hot and then you realize that you're irritated? You know what I mean?
Yes. As people when people are like, "Are you okay?" and you're like, "Yes, I'm okay," and then you're like, "Wait, I'm not okay." Like
I'm not okay.
I am not
I'm
okay.
not.
Like I'm walking
Yeah.
around crazy, stomping. That's so interesting. And I think that's something that we
Yeah.
need to pay attention to in our day-to-day life. Like I don't think that
Oh yeah.
for your purpose you should just do whatever makes you happy because that is crazy because killing people
Hmm.
might make you happy. But I do think that you should like follow your body. Like I just have never thought about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Your body will tell you everything you need to know.
That is so
Everything you need to
interesting.
know.
That like literally when
Even while you're
you
eating,
what do you mean?
while you're eating.
Hmm.
So like I have this water.
Hmm.
I'm going to sip the water and I'm going to pay attention to how it feels in my mouth, how it feels going down my throat. Do I like the water? Am I happy with this water? How often do we eat stale pizza because it's pizza and it's there? Versus asking yourself, like, do I even like this pizza? Why am I
Yeah.
eating it? Am I full? Do I need it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So just being more
And
conscious.
so that's an actual thing called mindful eating. But yeah, being more conscious of like the the way that your physical body feels as you're going throughout your day. It's
That's
important.
so are you slowly, because now that you know this is like your purpose to help people through this, are you slowly like phasing out? I don't want to say get rid of, phasing out your other clients to be fully a sex therapist?
Not just yet.
Okay.
Not just yet. Once I have mm, certain clients stable to where I need them to be, I will gladly transition them out, but I definitely don't want to abandon them and like
Yeah.
leave them high and dry because they are trauma clients, even though I feel like this is not making me happy. I'm tired of
Yeah.
talking about trauma. It would be wrong for me as a therapist and a person to abandon them in that way, but that is the goal, to be done with
Yeah.
trauma. And so the thing about sex therapy is people even come in with sexual assault,
That's
um,
what I was gonna ask you next.
sexual traumas. Yeah. So that's very common too. But the thing about sexual assault is it's a very specific type of trauma. Specific traumas such as that are easier to heal, is not the word I'm looking for, but find relief from
Maneuver.
through maneuver. Yes, thank you. Than say like a childhood trauma, just neglect and abuse in childhood or an abusive relationship. That takes a lot longer of a time than one sexual assault. Even if you have a lifetime, a full childhood of sexual abuse, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that it's never simple, right? Because it's on the client to want to do the work. But I found that working with sexual traumas is a lot more easier and fine tuned than dealing with than helping people through um, non specific traumas. Does
That
that
makes
make
sense.
sense?
No, it makes sense. Also, but
Yeah.
also I think a part of it is also that you enjoy it, right? So like it's easier
Hmm.
for you because you enjoy talking people
This is true. That's a
through,
very good point.
right? Because it's your purpose, right? Like you're that's a
Hmm.
part of what you are here to do, is to help people explore their
Hmm.
sexuality and their apprehensions. So it makes sense that a
Yeah.
childhood trauma with I mean a childhood sexual assault would make more, not make more sense, be easier for you to walk
For
people
me specifically, yes, yes.
than someone who's dealing with neglect or other type of abuse. So that makes
Hmm.
sense. But it also just speaks to when something's your purpose, not that it is easy, but it comes easy for you.
It comes naturally. Yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah.
comes naturally.
You're
So that's
right.
dope. That's dope. I want to be
Thank
like,
you.
now tell me about one of your clients, but we can't do that. I'm just like so interested in like, because I'm thinking about my own hangups and not just, okay, so here's the thing. So is sex
Okay.
therapy different than relationship therapy?
Not really.
Because I'm
It
thinking about my
can be,
hangups
but
like
not
in
really.
dating in general, not necessarily like in
Mm.
sex, but just like I don't even want to talk to people. Like how you gonna get married if you don't want to talk to
I see what
people?
you're saying. So
Like,
yes, that is a different like type of therapy. People specialize in relationships and
okay,
couples. But yeah, when you think about yourself and you think about, I know both you and I grew up Christian, right? And so even thinking about how those beliefs and the things that we're taught in the church kind of infiltrate all the things we're learning on social media, right?
I thought I was
You're being
going
told,
to hell.
yeah,
Like
yes. And
straight
did you
to
know that at 4 and 5 years old, it's normal to masturbate. It's normal for kids who are 4 and 5 years old to masturbate. So imagine a 4 year old. My son is 3 and a half. He's about to be 4. Like, so imagine a 4 year old, a parent who's born in 1960, walking in on their 4 year old who is grinding on a pillow or touching themselves. Imagine their reaction. Now, imagine how big that reaction would be, how impactful that is for that 4 year old
Right.
to learn in that moment, oh, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. This is not okay, but it feels good. Because they're not connecting it to eroticism.
Right.
They're connecting it to like, this is just what feels good, which
Right.
is what I tell people to do all the time, do what feels good, right? But yeah, when you think about dating, it's the same thing. You're not supposed to fornicate. You're not supposed to like do all of these different things.
Yeah.
We're taught let the man choose you. You don't choose him. All of those things just go into how we think about dating and then how we date as adults.
And
Not
how
just
we
religion, but parents too.
Yeah, I just never. I'm telling you, you need to be my therapist. I really thought I was going to hell. Like it took for like years for me to be like, Jasmine, you are not going to hell. Like, calm down. Do you think this is
Yeah.
the best life choice for you? No. So you should stop. But you're not going to hell. You
You're
know,
not
like,
going to hell.
and having like it literally was trauma. Like, and that's
Yes, it's
yeah, because
traumatic.
and I don't think my parents ever told me that. Like, I don't think my mom was ever like, you have lost your virginity. You are going to hell. Like, my parents, they
Mm-hmm.
don't even talk like that. Like, my parents are not fire and brimstone parents. But I think it was
Yeah.
just like the messages I got around me that kind of,
From church.
yes, that
Yes.
like kind of told me because my parents have never said that to me. Now that I'm thinking about like where did I
Same.
get this from? Like,
Same.
sorry, this is my
Like,
personal
where does this
situation.
belief come from?
Yeah, sorry guys. Welcome to the therapy session. But yeah, like I had to like really process through because I was even talking to one of my ex-boyfriends. I'm telling all my business now. Sorry, y'all. I don't do it no more. But like, and he was like, Jasmine, we were joking about it like recently. He was like, you used to cry. Like I used to cry. He would be like, and I would ask you, are you sure you want to do this? And I'm like, yeah. And then like after I'm like, why did I like cry?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
because I thought I was
Cause
going to hell. Like,
yeah.
yeah, and it's
It's so
crazy.
damaging.
Huh?
It's so damaging.
It is. It's very damaging. It's very damaging. And I'm telling you, when I say recently, I mean like probably last 5 or 6 years have processed like, Jasmine, you're not going to hell. Like,
That's better than me.
like
I had a whole child and was going through all this.
oh Lord. It's just like we we're gonna have our own therapy session when it's over. But anyway, I think that's interesting though, like that you help people process through these things. I think these things are important.
Mhm.
And it kind of leads me back to my next question. Like in your profession, how can you see, like these events, both the trauma that you're not as in love with and like the sexual therapy part, like prevent people from getting to their purpose or pursuing their own purpose?
You're asking like what are the barriers
Yeah.
to
So if
for
if
people?
I really thought I was still going to hell or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, definitely have a lot of those.
Okay.
Um um so okay, wait, let me clarify. So the question is how do I help them navigate through that?
Yeah, because the point is for them to be
Okay.
a whole being, right?
Mhm.
And the purpose of
Mhm.
this podcast is to get them closer to their purpose. So, like, how can I be a
Mhm.
whole being so then I can pursue my purpose? So, if
Your
I still think I'm
purpose.
going to hell every day, my mind is not clear enough to even pursue something else.
One of the most powerful things you can do in a situation like that is to really think about the source. Who is the person? Where
Mm,
did you learn that from? Was it parents, like you said, that you learned that from church and the people who were around you? I did too. Some people learn it straight from their parents. I have clients who are part of the LGBTQ community, and their parents have literally said, "You are going to hell." You know what I mean? And so, really thinking about your source and thinking about who told me this, who did I learn this from, and doing the research on your own. Um, a lot of the time when people come to me saying that they have this belief that they're going to go to hell because of the things that they like or the thing or their lifestyle or whatever the reason may be, I encourage them to do their own research. Where did you learn that? Where in the Bible did you see that you're going to go to hell because you're bisexual, because you are interested in this type of genre of erotica, right? Where did you read that in the Bible? Do your own research before just listening to what your pastor says and your parents say. It's okay for you to do your own research and then talk to them and ask questions and figure out what you believe and what you don't. Make that decision for yourself. And so a part of me helping people heal is also me helping people to find that they have a lot more control in their life than they think they do.
mm,
And people forget that. So yeah, that's probably one of the best things that I could say is do your research and figure out where is that coming from and make your own decision. Are you going to hell? You know? And then also thinking about, okay, I'm afraid of going to hell. I'm afraid of going to hell. What does that say about how I feel about myself now? Do I think I'm going to hell because I'm a bad person? You know what I mean? Um, and that's not that is considered a negative self belief. If you think you're a bad person, it's a negative self belief. That's coming from somewhere, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so then that's where the therapy starts. Let's explore why you think you're such a bad person. When did you first realize you were a bad person? What kind of things have you actually done in your life that make you a bad person? What does being a bad person mean? How does it feel? What does it say about how the rest of your life will go? You know, there's a lot of follow-up questions
Yeah,
to kind of figuring that piece out.
that's cool. So the things that I picked up from what she said, guys, is in order to come through some of these barriers, ask yourself, well, do your own research and say, who told me that, right? Who told me these things
Mhm.
about my life that are bothering you? So you, it may not be a sexual trauma, or it may not be a trauma. It may be that you're not good enough, right? And then you walk through life with this thing on you that says I'm not good enough. And you should ask yourself, who told me that? Like
Mhm.
what things told me that I'm not good enough? And then the second question, I did all that talking. What was the second question? I don't know what
The
you
second
said. That you
Oh,
said,
the second question for me.
yes.
Oh, I said um oh, questioning if you feel like a bad person. So if you think you're going to hell, that's because you probably already believe that you're a bad person and you deserve to go to hell.
Got it.
Why? Where's that coming from? Because
So,
who told you you're a bad person? Is that true? Why do you believe that? Where's that belief coming from? All of that.
so this is totally random. But what if somebody really is like a quote unquote bad person? Do you try to convince them that they not?
Because, so that's the key of doing this work. There are no bad people,
Okay.
right? I often use,
That's why I say quote
um,
unquote, guys. I don't believe in bad
quote
people.
unquote, yes.
I'm just saying.
You think of, who's a serial killer? Jack the Ripper, Jeffrey Dahmer. Those are the first two that came to my mind. Um, they're not bad people because if you really, they do bad things that nobody should do.
No one.
But they're not bad people. Being a bad person, in my mind, signifies that you are like the bottom of the bottom.
Yeah.
You are unworthy. You are unvaluable. You're just a horrible person. You deserve to go to hell. I don't believe God puts people on the earth who are just unworthy and unvaluable. We're all worthy because we're here. God chose for us to be here, right? And so you're worthy because you exist. Just because, so if you look at these serial killers, as they love to do and dissect their childhoods and all of that,
Yeah.
none of these people came from positive backgrounds. They had a lot
Yeah,
of
that's
pain. They had a lot of like, just a lot of stuff with them, you know. Of course, if you feel like your mom and dad never loved you or you never had anyone, you were alone in this world, and you don't even care about yourself, why would you care about someone else?
yeah.
You know, and being a sociopath, a psychopath, that's a disease. Not excusing it doesn't mean you can just go out and kill people because there's plenty of sociopaths who don't kill, right? But it's a disease in the sense that it came from something. You weren't born that way, right? And so, are you a bad person because you have experienced these things in your life? No. Are you an unworthy person because you're a serial killer? Now you're just unworthy of love and you're unworthy of value? No. You deserve to be punished for your crime
Yeah.
in whatever way the court sees fit. You know, you do deserve to be punished, but you're still worthy. You're still valuable. You're not a horrible person. You do horrible, heinous things. Um, you know, and so I think that's the misconception. It's a whole different conversation. The misconception of psychopaths and sociopaths that like because they just don't have empathy that they deserve to die. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah. But that was developed
Um,
over time. Like they weren't born that way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
So that's I think that's interesting. Like we use these extreme examples, but I think that there are people listening that are like thinking about these things that have made them feel unworthy, right? These events, these things that they've done, these things that they've said. And that speaks to them like this should not stop you from pursuing your purpose. Ask yourself these deep questions like why
exactly.
do I feel like this thing fire people. Why do I think that this thing exempts me from pursuing my purpose or being whole so I can pursue
Exactly.
my purpose and figure that out? I think those are really good questions to ask on whatever level you're on. Cause I'm thinking about stuff in my own life that I'm like, man, I need to figure out why that stops me, you know?
Yeah.
That's and
Yeah.
it's not as bad as me killing 10 people, but it still stops me. And that means it affects me.
Yeah.
Um
Exactly.
and figuring that out on your path to purpose. Thank you. That was good. That was good.
Oh, you're welcome. You're
Uh,
welcome.
so the next question is what is your purpose? But we've already discussed that. Your purpose is to help
To
people
heal.
explore their
Yeah.
sexuality, correct?
I would say my purpose is to put it in words, to heal,
Mm,
and thinking about whatever that process looks like along the way. Right now, my way of helping people heal is in one-to-one therapy sessions. So who knows what that's going to look like in 10 years, right? I could be doing something totally different. I can't even fathom, right?
yeah.
But you never know. Yeah, my purpose is to get this information out. I'm doing the work on myself. I've done the work on myself, continuing to do it. And so I want now my purpose is to help other people through their own to learn, figure out what it is that you want to release. What have you been holding on to your whole life that you want to release? What do you want to choose? How do you want to choose to live your life? How do you want to heal?
That's dope. So I'm glad I let you answer because my answer was not right. Uh, that's the whole point. You need to answer your own question. That is very that's dope though, and I think that is cool, especially the purpose of the podcast to let people hear other people's stories. That you mentioned that like in 10 years that may not be what it is, and that's
Mhm.
okay. And I
And
think
that's
for my
okay.
audience, that's one of the things that I always try to mention. Like it's a journey, and if your journey
Mhm.
changes, that's okay. Like it's
That's okay.
like you don't have to be because even in your healing, you did trauma for however long, right? And now
Yeah.
you're like, oh
Right.
no, this is what I should do. Also, y'all should follow.
Mhm.
I don't know your IG page, but if you want to shout out your IG page because it is a good IG page.
Straightforward dot therapy.
There we go. Straightforward dot therapy. She gets a lot of tips on just the way to think about everything actually and
Yes.
to work through your traumas. I like it. It's a great page. You should like it as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
And then
Yes.
my last question is what's the one thing you want people to get from your episode of the podcast?
Mm. Let me think. Um, the one thing I want people to understand is that they have the power and they have the ability to control the way their life looks.
Hmm.
So if you're listening to this and your life is not looking the way that you want it to look right now, really taking a fine tooth comb and looking at why. What is my role in how my life is looking right now? And how can I gain control? Because the control is there. You just have to take a hold of it, you know? So many times we feel like we have no control or we have no power in what's going on. This thing just kind of happens, right? Especially when talking about death and grief and mourning and things like that. No, you don't have control over the event, but you do have control over how you continue to move forward,
Yeah.
right? So you have control over if you have a loved one who passed away and you no longer want to be on this earth. You have control over what you do with that. You have control over if you're not happy with your job and do I stay in this job or do I leave? You'll talk to people who are in a situation where they're unhappy and they say they have no choice. You always have a choice. Always. You could quit if you wanted to. Will that help your bills? Probably not. So maybe quitting is not the best option, but you still have that choice.
Yeah.
And you also have the choice to make a plan for later. Everything is not instant gratification. You because you don't like your job and you can't quit now doesn't mean it has to look like that 6 months from now.
Yeah, that's good.
Plan.
That's good. So there you have it, guys. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Purpose Podcast with Dr. Jazz, where we journey to purpose together. And I'll see you all next week.
Bye.